What's up, guys? Back at it with another video today. Today we're talking about Gilbert Burns. Man, guys, if you guys don't know, Gilbert Burns retired last night after his main event fight against Michael Malott at UFC Winnipeg, in which he was TKO'd. And I just wanted to get on here and make this video and show a sign of appreciation to Gilbert Burns, what he's meant to the UFC, to its fans, and to all the Brazilians out there who have supported Gilbert Burns throughout his whole career. Gilbert Durinho Burns, man, hell of a career. You know, one of the few people that was willing to, one of the things that stands out to me about Gilbert Burns is not only just his fighting accolades of how long he was in the UFC and fighting the top competition, but even his jiu-jitsu accolades. For those of you guys who don't know, Gilbert Burns is a big jiu-jitsu player prior to coming to the UFC. He's won several big tournaments, I believe ADCC. Incredible fighter. But not only that, my biggest takeaway from Gilbert Burns is when Khamzat Chimaev was stepping up, was running through the division, was looking for a big step up in competition. And you know how UFC works. Everybody's saying they want to fight. Everybody's saying that they, I'll fight this guy on one day's notice, or I'll fight this dude. I ain't really worried about it. I'll call whoever else. There's only one person who truly stepped up to the plate, wanted to fight Khamzat Chimaev when he was at welterweight and he was coming up and he was ragdogging people. And that was Gilbert Burns. And not only did he step up and fight, that was a hell of a fight, Khamzat versus Gilbert Burns. That was a hell of a fight. That was toe-to-toe. Gilbert didn't look scared. He brought the fight to Khamzat. And, for the first time in Khamzat's early career, he showed a side to him that looked like, as he could be beat. You know what I'm saying? And I think that fight against Gilbert Burns was very, very hard for Khamzat Chimaev and gave him a rude awakening into, the level of competition, but also at welterweight. Now that Khamzat Chimaev is at middleweight, things are different, but that always stuck out to me about how Gilbert Burns was willing to step up to the plate, the courage he had. And then also his fight against Kamaru Usman, former teammates, they fought each other and it was a really good fight. And then Kamaru Usman got that finish and they shook hands like brothers, and it never really changed the relationship. It never really salvaged the relationship, unlike, Masvidal and Covington, or Usman and Covington. The relationship between Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman always stood professional. And Gilbert Burns has just been one of those consistent people in the UFC who's consistently showed up and fought and put on good fights. And man, like I always say, guys, when fighters are fighting and they're putting on all these fights every pay-per-view, twice a year, 3 times a year, you have to really take advantage of those opportunities to go out and go see your favorite fighter fight. Or also just make sure you watch it and tune in, because the ride doesn't last forever. And this is the tail end of Gilbert Burns' career. It's over, just like that. And same thing a year ago with Jorge Masvidal. Same thing's going to happen very, very soon with Charles Oliveira, with Israel Adesanya, with Conor McGregor, who's essentially basically retired, even though he might be coming back. Savor the moment for these fighters, man. Because when this cage door closes and that's the end of their career, the Dustin Poiriers, the Justin Gaethjes, the Gilbert Burns, it's going to be the changing of a guard. It's going to be a new era in the UFC. And Gilbert Burns was one of those fighters who was a fighter's fighter. Always left it out there, always willing to rumble, and never afraid, never scared, put it all on the line, And I'm not sure if he'll make it into the UFC Hall of Fame, but Gilbert Burns is beloved by the UFC fight fans, and he has nothing to be ashamed of. He had a hell of a career, one of the best fighters to ever not become a champion, but one of the best fighters at the welterweight division. And yeah, man, great career, a great career. And shout out to Michael Malott, who got that win and got that finish. He's another successful dude at welterweight who, is going to look at it, break into that top 10 and potentially become a problem. But welterweight is getting very, very competitive. So make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe back into another video. Gilbert Burns, hell of a career, bro.